Have you ever caught yourself making the same foolish mistakes that leave so many older folks feeling miserable? As the years roll by, it's all too easy to slip into routines and habits, never realizing that some of them might be steering us toward regret rather than contentment. This video is all about four of the most foolish mistakes that countless older folks make and how these missteps can lead straight to misery if we're not careful. In this video, we're going to dive deep into the four stupid mistakes that so many older people make. Mistakes that, over time, can sap your joy, weaken your sense of purpose, and even isolate you from the people you care about most. Each of these mistakes comes with a hidden cost. But the good news is that recognizing them is the first step toward reclaiming your peace and happiness. Stay tuned until the end because you're going to discover not just how to avoid these pitfalls, but also how making just a few changes can dramatically improve the quality of your life, no matter your age. And trust me, some of these insights might just surprise you. Now let's get started. Number one, neglecting meaningful connections. One of the most destructive mistakes older folks often make is neglecting their social ties, thinking it's just a normal part of getting older. You might tell yourself that people drift apart, that family's busy, or that friends are too wrapped up in their own lives. At first, it might seem harmless. Maybe you get used to spending more evenings alone, or find yourself going days without reaching out to anyone. But over time, this slow withdrawal chips away at your sense of belonging and purpose in ways you might not notice until the loneliness really sets in. The truth is, meaningful relationships are just as important at 70 or 80 as they were when you were 25. Yet it's all too common for people our age to assume that new friendships aren't worth the effort or that old ones have simply run their course. There's a quiet danger in believing that isolation is simply part of aging, when in fact it's a mistake that can lead to a deep sense of misery if left unchecked. When you stop calling old friends, miss out on family gatherings, or convince yourself that no one wants to hear from you, you're not just losing company, you're losing vital support, shared memories, and a chance to laugh, reminisce, and keep growing as a person. This mistake is subtle, and it doesn't happen overnight. Maybe you tell yourself it's too much trouble to get out and see people, or you worry about being a burden. But research shows that strong social connections don't just lift your spirits. They can actually boost your health, sharpen your mind, and even help you live longer. Remember, loneliness isn't just a feeling, it's a real health risk, just like poor diet or lack of exercise. I remember hearing about a fellow named Frank, a retired teacher in his late 70s, who spent most of his days puttering around the house, rarely picking up the phone. After his wife passed, he figured folks would reach out if they wanted to see him. But weeks slipped into months, and eventually he found himself feeling invisible, wondering if anyone would notice if he just disappeared. It wasn't until a neighbor insisted he join a weekly breakfast group that things began to turn around. That one small step, just showing up, opened the door to new friendships and a sense of belonging he hadn't felt in years. It's easy to think, I don't want to bother anyone, or it's too late to make new friends. But that's just not true. No matter your age, you deserve to be seen, heard, and valued. Picking up the phone, joining a club, even sharing a meal with neighbors, these are not just pleasant activities. They are life-giving. Don't fall into the trap of thinking isolation is inevitable. Your social circle might change, but its importance never does. The next time you find yourself hesitating to reach out, remember that staying connected is not just a way to pass the time. It's a pillar of happiness and resilience, especially as you get older. Number two, ignoring physical and mental health. There's a second mistake that slips in quietly, sometimes masked by the belief that slowing down is just part of growing older. Neglecting your physical and mental health. It's not unusual for older folks to start putting off doctor's visits, skipping their daily walks, or letting old aches and pains go unchecked. Maybe you find yourself thinking, well, I'm not as young as I used to be, or that's just part of aging. Before you know it, a simple bit of stiffness becomes a reason to stay in your chair, and worries about your memory start to chip away at your confidence. Let's be honest, after decades of hard work and caring for others, it's tempting to think you've earned a little rest. But rest should never mean giving up on your health. The reality is, Our bodies and minds need just as much attention in our later years as they did when we were young. Skipping routine checkups, avoiding exercise, and ignoring symptoms. These are mistakes that can rob you of energy, mobility, and peace of mind. What begins as a little neglect often snowballs into bigger problems until, suddenly, you're facing health issues that could have been prevented or managed. It's not just about the big things either. Everyday choices, like what you eat for breakfast, whether you make time to stretch, or if you take a brisk walk after dinner, all add up over time. And when it comes to mental health, many older adults still believe that talking about stress or sadness is something to be embarrassed about. Maybe you grew up in a time when you were taught to keep your troubles to yourself, but today we know better. Mental well-being is just as crucial as physical health, and ignoring it is one of the surest ways to slip into misery. Let me tell you about Martha, a vibrant woman in her early 80s who started feeling a bit down after she retired. She stopped going to her weekly bridge game, started sleeping in more, and didn't notice how much her energy and mood dipped until her daughter gently nudged her to talk with her doctor. A simple conversation led to some counseling and a new exercise routine, and soon Martha was back to her lively self, proof that a little attention to your mind and body can make all the difference. When you ignore your health, it's not just your body that suffers, your whole life contracts. Movement gets harder, socializing becomes a challenge, and it's easy to slip into a pattern where you expect less and less out of every day. The mistake isn't in getting older, it's in believing that declining health is your only option. Even small steps, like taking a daily walk, reaching out when you feel blue, or staying up to date with checkups, can protect your freedom and keep you feeling more like yourself. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Number 3, clinging to regret and resentment. If there's one mistake that quietly poisons the spirit, it's holding on to old regrets and resentments. Over the years, everyone gathers their share of disappointments. Choices you wish you'd made differently, relationships that didn't work out, moments when you let yourself or someone else down. It's only human to look back now and then. But many older folks fall into the trap of replaying the same stories of regret, letting them color every new day with bitterness or sadness. Before you know it, this habit can start to drain the joy out of life, leaving you feeling stuck in the past. What makes this mistake so insidious is that it feels almost justified. After all, you've lived a long time, and you've seen a lot. Maybe you've been wronged, or maybe you made decisions that haunt you. It's tempting to think, if only I'd done things differently, or I can't forgive what happened. But the truth is, carrying old resentments and regrets doesn't change the past. All it does is steal your peace in the present, making it harder to see the beauty and possibility that still lie ahead. You see, as we get older, the stories we tell ourselves become powerful forces. When you replay past hurts, it's as if you're choosing to live them over and over. That pain can show up in your mood, your health, and even your relationships. Sometimes it might feel easier to hang on to those old hurts than to risk opening up again or forgiving someone, maybe even forgiving yourself. But letting go isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign of wisdom. It frees up space in your heart for new experiences, new joys, and a kind of quiet strength that only comes from choosing peace over pain. Let me share the story of Edward Naruk, a gentleman in his early 80s who always seemed to carry a cloud around him. After losing touch with his brother over a family dispute, he spent years replaying the argument, thinking of all the ways he'd been wronged. Every holiday, he'd grow quiet and withdrawn, not realizing how much this old wound shaped his daily outlook. It wasn't until he decided to write a simple letter, not to argue, not to rehash the past, but just to say he missed the good times, that things started to shift. That one act of letting go, even if it didn't fix everything, helped Edward feel lighter, more open, and ready to find happiness again. Holding on to regret and resentment is like carrying a heavy sack everywhere you go. It wears you down and keeps you from embracing the present. It might feel impossible to forgive or forget, but the truth is, every day offers a fresh chance to choose joy over bitterness. Whether it's a conversation you need to have, a memory you need to reframe, or simply a decision to stop punishing yourself, letting go can transform your outlook and your life. You've lived long enough to know that life is full of ups and downs, and nobody gets it all right. The real wisdom is in choosing to lighten your load, to give yourself and others grace, and to turn your attention to what you can still savor and create. In the end, forgiveness and acceptance aren't gifts you give to others. They're gifts you give to yourself, making room for more peace and happiness as you move forward. Number 4, refusing to adapt to change. Another mistake that can quietly lead to misery as we age is the stubborn refusal to adapt to change. It's easy to fall into the mindset that what worked for you 20 or 30 years ago should still work now. And there's a certain comfort in sticking to routines and beliefs that once felt reliable. But life, as you well know, is always moving, shifting, and bringing new challenges. When we dig in our heels and resist those changes, whether it's technology, relationships, our health, or even the way society works, we risk becoming isolated, frustrated, and disconnected from the world around us. This mistake often shows up in small ways at first. Maybe you bristle when someone suggests using a smartphone instead of a landline, or you dismiss a new medical treatment because it's unfamiliar. You might feel out of place when the grandkids start talking about social media or find yourself saying things like, "In my day, things were better." There's a comfort in the familiar, but clinging too tightly can close you off from opportunities, ideas, and connections that could actually make life richer and more interesting. You've probably met someone like Helen, a bright woman in her late 70s who spent years refusing to touch a computer. She missed out on emails from her family, struggled to manage her finances, and felt left behind every time her friends talked about video calls or online photos. For the longest time, Helen believed she just wasn't cut out for all that new stuff. But after her daughter spent a few afternoons showing her the ropes, Helen discovered a whole new world. She started sending messages to old friends, learned how to order groceries online, and even picked up a new hobby watching painting lessons on the internet. What once felt scary or pointless became a lifeline to community, creativity, and fun. The truth is, the world isn't going to stop changing just because we prefer the old ways. And while it's natural to feel uneasy about new technology or shifting social norms, resisting change doesn't protect us. It only makes life harder. Every day there are new tools, ideas, and possibilities designed to make our lives better. But we can only benefit from them if we're willing to take the first step, however small. Refusing to adapt isn't just about technology or gadgets. It can also show up in the way we think about health, relationships, and our own sense of purpose. Maybe you've always managed things a certain way, but your health needs have changed, or your family looks different now than it did before. Maybe there's a new way to connect with neighbors or stay active in your community. The key is to approach each new challenge with a spirit of curiosity rather than fear. When you stay open to learning, growing, and trying something new, you keep yourself engaged with life, and you remind yourself that you're never too old for a new beginning. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 4 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Final thoughts. As we come to the end of this video, I invite you to take a quiet moment and reflect on these 4 foolish mistakes: neglecting your relationships, ignoring your health, holding on to regrets, and refusing to adapt to change. Which one resonated with you the most? Maybe you recognize yourself in more than one. Or perhaps you realize there's still time to change course and choose a brighter path forward. The truth is, none of us are perfect, and we've all stumbled into these traps at one point or another. What matters is how we respond once we see them for what they are. Remember, it's never too late to reach out to an old friend, to schedule that health checkup, to lay down old burdens, or to learn something new. Every day is a fresh chance to build a life that feels meaningful, joyful, and connected. The small steps you take today, no matter how modest, can add up to enormous changes over time. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What stood out to you most? Which of these mistakes do you see in yourself? And which one do you feel ready to tackle first? Leave a comment below and let us know how you plan to bring a little more happiness and peace into your daily life. Your experiences might be just the encouragement someone else needs to make a change too. Thank you for joining us today. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today and how you plan to use it in your life. Your thoughts are important to us, so don't hesitate to share them. Reading your comments gives us great motivation and encouragement. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share your support. Helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.